Hello and welcome to BeamNG Drive. I'm your host, davidinark, and today I'm doing something a little different. There's been an update to the Pikes Peak map, and I just wanted to, I remembered playing through the Pikes Peak map some time ago. I couldn't remember exactly when. I had to go back and research and all that stuff. But anyway, I do remember playing through it, and then I saw this latest updated LiDAR edition. That's the one that's on the right as you're watching the video. And I thought it would be cool to compare the version from December 2017 up to the version that was just released here in August. And I tried as best I could to make them match each other in terms of where they were going and about the time they get to the different places. But I will tell you, I was successful in some places and not so much in others. So just bear with me as you go through this. You will see there are several places where everything syncs up, and the cars are pretty much in the exact same place, and then of course there are plenty of places where they are completely off base and they're not quite in the same place, partly because, well, I'm not a very good driver, but anyway, so I don't know, I just thought it would be kind of cool to take a drive and compare the drive between the two maps. And in addition to that, we had an update to the game between the 2017 release and the August 2018 release. So that also comes into play in terms of some things like sounds, in terms of, at least from what I can tell, in terms of grip, some of those kinds of things that the games themselves just have between the two different versions based on when each was released. And I don't know, that some of that may not have any bearing at all, since the game itself is updated regardless of what's going on with the map. But I don't know, it felt much different. The 2017 version, I could get up to some really decent speeds, over 100 miles an hour on some of the stretches. And on the 2018 version, there were a couple of places where I could get close to that, but it never felt like I could get comfortable enough to reach that kind of speed without losing some control of the car for one reason or another. And I'm not even sure why that was the case, but it just was. It's just one of those things that happened. The other thing is that the 2017 edition actually has some more of the kind of details that I like we just saw a little bit ago, the little houses on the side. And as we go through here, you're going to see some other details that just, I don't know. I mean, the details in the August 2018 version are more the environmental details, where on the 2017 there's not a whole lot of environment details, but there were like structural details that I thought were very, very cool, that I hope are put back into the map. Now, I tried to do as much research as I could in terms of creator and all that kind of stuff, and so far as I can tell, I think it's the same person who did both of these maps. And please feel free to leave a comment if I'm wrong about that. If that's not the case, if these are two different maps by two different people, please let me know. But I think that they are they're both Pikes Peak maps. I'm not sure if the one on the left-hand side is LiDAR based or if it was just hand created, but the one on the right-hand side is definitely LiDAR based, and so that could make a difference in terms of getting in the height maps and where the roads are laid out, all that kind of stuff. But again, I just wanted to compare the two different maps, and I had actually just fired up recording the 2017 version, and I thought, oh, if I could get these to run side by side, that would be awesome. So again, my driving leaves a little to be desired in terms of trying to do a side by side comparison, but there are plenty of places that are very, very close, and I get enough speed on the left-hand side on the 2017 version that really they end up syncing up in more places than I even realized. But if in a perfect world, and if I was, if I was OCD about it, then I would have made sure that everything matched up exactly. But for the purposes here, I mean, we're talking about taking in scenery, we're talking about details to the roads, we're talking about things like guardrails, we're talking about things like, you know, trying not to fall off the side of the face of the mountain. That would not be good. So, you know, little things like that. Yeah, so anyhow, we are cruising right along here in both maps, just heading up to the peak. And I will tell you, the one thing that I completely forgot was how long it takes to get up the mountain to reach the peaks. I mean, I really was expecting, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes or so for it to take me to get up to the top, and no, not even. I mean, so here's some details like these over here on the left-hand side where you see the outpost and the cabin and that kind of stuff. Those are the kinds of things that I hope get added into the LiDAR version. And again, I'm assuming it's made by the same person based on my research, but I could be wrong. I could be way off on there, and feel free to leave that down in the comments if it is actually two different people. But even if it is two different people, then, you know, if you take the structural details from the 2017 and you stick those in the August 18 LiDAR edition, then that right-hand side map is going to be phenomenal when it gets done. And I'm sure there's still lots of work that the author is going to do on that particular map. But I mean, absolutely incredible when it comes to things like the details of the environment itself. I mean, you can see on the left-hand side where things are, it's more like sand. The dirt has like no real texture, and yes, there are some rocky juts and what have you, but really for the most part it's kind of blank. And then so you see there on the left hand side, just looking out over the edge, and then of course me losing control because that's how I drive. Anyhow, just taking a look, trying to get in some of those details, and then at some point, and sorry, I was looking on the left-hand side, so if I did that already on the right-hand side, then that was over there at some point, although I think that's just now coming up on the right-hand side. I think this is maybe, well, I crashed, so much for that. But somewhere in here, I was pretty sure I took a pause to look over the edge. I don't know. It's at some point I do that. But anyway, you can check that out as we go. Oh, here it is right there. There we go. So on the right-hand side, you know, again, comparing the difference between the two when you look over the edge, the details on the updated 2018 version, oh, just so amazing. Which, I mean, and you sort of expect that anyway. Assuming they are the same author, you would expect that as the author works on the map and starts to add more details, etc., that it's going to become more realistic and have more stuff in it. But I mean, the comparison is just absolutely amazing to me when you look at how things are laid out on the left-hand side versus the right-hand side. In fact, as you can see now, the cars are pretty much right in sync. They are exactly in the same place on the map, which I think is very cool. Like I said, had I been, or I guess they're pretty close. I don't know. now that I'm looking at that, that's very, very weird. But and again, there may be some things that if the map on the left-hand side was done more by hand than through LiDAR, and through, you know, studying the road, that type of thing, then it's very possible that the update is more accurate, just because there may have been places where there actually wasn't a road, or it didn't turn a certain way, or what have you, just through updates. And as if you've been watching the channel for a while, you may know that I've been working with High Def, and he's been helping me, and we've been building a tutorial together, walking through map building, map making, that type of stuff. And so I like to see the evolution of maps and to see how things get updated and things get changed as the author, as the creator, continues to add features into a map. Because ultimately, as I start creating maps, especially if I expect to put those in a repository, then as I make these maps, as I make my own maps, I want to, you know, they are going to evolve. I want to add in more detail as I work on the map. To me, this is a great example of how to release a map into the wild. You know, you first give the general overview idea of the map over on the left-hand side, where, you know, here's a road and here are some details and here's some features, and then the evolution is that as I continue to work on the map, then you add in more things, which I'm assuming again is what happened with the right hand side for the August 2018 version. And again, right now they're almost exactly in sync as we come up around this corner. And of course, I'm bouncing all over the place on the right hand side. So, there you go. It is what it is, So I think, if I'm right, I think we're coming up close to the peak, but actually I think we've, at this point, I think we still may have a ways to go before we get to the peak. Like I said, it took way longer to get to the peak than I remembered when I first fired up the game back in December. Or fired up this map anyway. I just did not remember it taking this long. And I watched a video of a guy. Well, there you go. I'm skirting off into the distance there on the right hand side. But I watched a video of dash cam footage of someone who rode up from the base, up the Pikes Peak Road to the top. And I would tell you it takes at least this long. And actually longer, because you're not allowed to go 100 miles an hour up the road. So, in fact, I think the video that I watched, I'll try to put a link to it in the description if I can find it again. But basically it was a time lapse of that trip. And I think that may be what the site is called. My time-lapse trip or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I'll put a link down in the description below. But just checking out the two versions of Pikes Peak, and one almost looks like it's in the desert more than anything else. The left-hand side really looks like you're more in the Sahara Desert or something, versus being on top of a mountain in Colorado, where the one on the right-hand side, you can definitely tell you are going up a mountain. And I think it'll be neat when they start to add some snow effects to the rocks and stuff. I mean, they sort of look like they might have some white snow crusting on there on the right hand side, but to really kind of get that authentic feel, and again, I know it depends on the time of year and all that kind of stuff, but still I think that'd be very cool to add some of that snow effect. But just look at how high we are. I mean, you can't even see the bottom because it's all getting washed out, man. So and I've actually been to the top of Pikes Peak many times. I used to live in Colorado, and we used to go, that was kind of our hangout thing. Now, I would tell you, the first time I went, if I remember correctly, there was not a way to drive up at all. You had to take the train. They have a train that goes up the side of the mountain, and I don't think you could even drive up there. Again, I don't remember exactly, but so we're getting to the summit here, and you can see on the left-hand side, see all the details. These are the things that are up there in real life or close to it. On the right-hand side, right now, it's just a big empty lot. So I'm hoping that the creator will put in some of those details that are missing from the on the right-hand side, because that's what makes it all, I don't know, worth it to me. That's what makes it authentic, is to have those features that are at the top. There's a weather station, there's a visitor center, there's actually a sign you can have your picture taken in front of that says, Pikes Peak with the altitude and all that kind of stuff. But even without that, awesome stuff here on the two different versions of Pikes Peak. And then, of course, it's not, it's not, oh yeah, on the right hand side, I noticed like there was this weird banding thing. So that's obviously something to do with the texture overlay or something along those lines. I don't know if that was a little interesting that they had this black band. And what I was hoping for, and what I'm doing while I'm looking around, is I'm looking to see if anyone included any of the train aspects to the map. To me, that's one of the things that this map is missing in terms of authenticity. You need to lay in the train track that cuts up the side of the mountain and winds around and all that stuff, because that's one of the key features of Pikes Peak. And in fact, I kind of thought this little on the right hand side where this little dirt trail is kind of snaking through, I don't know if that's like planned for where the railroad is going to go on the map. I'd have to compare actual aerial footage with Pikes Peak itself. And then, of course, on the left-hand side, I'm just, driving off the edge of the mountain and flying down the hill, just for fun, because why not? So, but anyway, I was trying to see if that's where the train was going to go. And then the more I followed it, I was like, I don't think that's where the train even goes. So once again, very, very cool maps, very cool details, different details between the two, but you can really tell there's a lot of work going into these various Pike Peak maps. And I just thought it'd be fun to do a side-by-side comparison, share that with you guys, and I don't know, get your feedback, get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on these kind of comparisons? And again, if it turns out that it's not the same author for both maps, please let me know. I'm already kind of a doof as it is, so if I mess something like that up, that's even worse. But based on my research, it looked like it was the same person. So anyhow, just let me know down in the comments below. And to that end, you got any questions, problems, suggestions, horror stories, feel free to leave those down in the comments section as well. And thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you next time on BeamNG Drive.